Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's September 2023 release is now available and it's all about Halloween. Here's a look at all of the products included in the September release. The first item is a stencil set called Enchanted Night Sky. This is the freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of product, and one item has to be from the new release. The freebie is available for a limited time and while supplies last. It's a two-piece stencil set you can use to create a fun night sky. The next item is a stamp set called Corny Halloween, and it does include the outline dies. There are two different candy corn images. One is dressed up as Frankenstein. You can also add fun little faces to the other candy corn, and there's a sentiment wishing you a corny Halloween. This set includes the outline die for both of the images as well as the sentiment. The next stamp set is called Candy Corn for Sale. The sentiments are designed to fit on their Build-A-Boot die set and also their sign add-on die set. There are lots of really fun Halloween sentiments, some cute and some spooky. The next stamp set is called Spooky Season, and there are coordinating outline dies. I've already snipped apart my dies and added them onto a magnetic sheet. There are so many fun Halloween sentiments. Trick or treat, happy Halloween, broom parking, others will be towed, hey boo, spooky and I gnome it, and several others. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their sentiment sets. There's another stencil set. This one is candy corn. There are 3 layers, perfect for creating a fun candy corn background. There's a new Build-A-Booth add-on set. This one's called Halloween. We have several different words. Haunted, beware, candy corn also has the price 31 cents. There are 3 different buntings, skulls, pumpkins, and candy corn. There are 2 new gnome add-on sets. The first one is called Spooky. You can create a large pumpkin that the gnome can sit inside. There's a new hat. You can decorate it looking like candy corn. There's an adorable frog, boo glasses, and also a ghost balloon. The other new gnome add-on set is called Graveyard, and it's on the creepier side. We have a tombstone, a coffin, there's a spider web with a small spider, a spider balloon, a large eye, there's a brain, and a new hat for all the zombie fans out there. So that's everything that's included in the September 2023 release, and I do have links in the description box below. For most of my cards in this video, I'm using pattern paper from Catherine Pooler. This is the Treats Only collection. For card design number 1, selected this fun polka dot paper for the background. I'm adding a Scallop Rectangle die, and this is from Jaded Blossom. I cut it out using some white shimmer cardstock. I'll layer the background on some purple cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the pieces for the large pumpkin. There's the top of the pumpkin and the bottom portion of the pumpkin. I'm adding a little extra ink to the edge of each of the die cut pieces using Catherine Pooler's Queen for a Day ink color. I cut out the background piece of the pumpkin from the same light purple cardstock. You can use any colored cardstock for the background pieces. They're there as a guideline to add all the individual pieces. I decided to use the same light purple cardstock. I'll glue down one piece at a time until I have the top and bottom of the pumpkin all assembled. I love all the stitch detail around each of the die cut pieces. I've finished assembling the bottom of the pumpkin. Now I'll do the top. I'll first add the stem, and I cut this out from some brown cardstock. Now I'll add the rest of the die cut pieces to finish the top portion of the pumpkin. I will be making orange pumpkins later on in the video, but I couldn't resist making a fun purple pumpkin for this card. I have just a couple more pieces to adhere. I will be adding a gnome inside the pumpkin, and I've already started assembling him. I use white cardstock for that background piece. He won't be wearing the full traditional gnome hat, so I will trim off the top portion. The hat he will be wearing is just the bottom layer of the new candy corn hat. After adhering that piece, I'll add his nose, and I did pop up the nose using some foam dimension. Now I'll put my gnome inside the pumpkin. I put a little bit of glue on the back to adhere him in place, and I'll also add a strip of double-sided adhesive tape. Now I'll adhere the top portion of the pumpkin on the gnome's hat. I'll also glue down one of his hands, putting it just on the edge of the purple pumpkin. The other hand he'll be holding something, so I'll be adding that later. I'll flip over the gnome inside the pumpkin, put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and add my gnome on the Scallop Rectangle. The gnome will be holding the new ghost balloon. I cut out the background piece from some dark purple cardstock, use a lighter purple cardstock for the main body of the ghost, and I use some black cardstock for the eyes and mouth. I'll inlay those three pieces, and to give the eyes a little more detail, I'm adding some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. The white circles are from the mini circle peel-off set, and the tiny black circles are from a bubble peel-off set, which unfortunately has been retired. I still have the one sheet left, so I'm trying to use it up. I'll put foam dimension on the back of the ghost portion of the balloon and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. Then I'll glue down his hand so he's holding the balloon string. I'll be adding a couple of small pumpkin die cuts, and these are from Jaded Blossom's Gnome Fall Add-on set. Using the leftover ink on my blender brush, I'll add just a little extra orange ink along the edge of each of the pumpkins. Then I'll glue down the stem. I'll add both of the pumpkins in the lower left-hand corner. The area where the pumpkin goes off of the purple pumpkin, I will put some foam dimension. And I'll put glue on the back of the area that touches the purple pumpkin. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out, Happy Halloween. Using the outline die, I cut out a second piece from some purple cardstock, and I'll adhere the two together, creating a purple drop shadow underneath the sentiment. I'll adhere it in the lower right-hand corner, so most of it is sitting on the purple pumpkin. The area where it goes off of the pumpkin, I will add some foam dimension. Using a white gel pen, I'll add highlights to the gnome, the pumpkins, and also the ghost. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the Mini Twinkle style in purple holographic color. It has lots and lots of sparkle. I'll put 3 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 underneath the ghost on the right-hand side. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. The colors are so fun. Now moving on to card design number 2, I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sugar Pea Designs. It's Sugar Sketch number 9. I selected this fun ghost pattern paper for the background, has the sentiment boo all over it. For the narrow strip on the left side of the card, I'm using the black and white gingham paper. And for the rectangle piece on the right side of the card, I'm using some light purple cardstock that almost matches the purple on the pattern paper in the background. I'll layer everything on some black cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the black cardstock layers, I did add an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements listed on the card sketch. For the narrow banner that goes across the card, decided not to bring in any other pattern papers or colors, so I'm using black cardstock. Before adhering it down, I'll add some scrap cardstock pieces on the very right side and foam dimension on the left, trying to keep everything nice and level. I cut out a stitched oval die cut from some white shimmer cardstock, and this is a die by Jaded Blossom. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the oval onto the card. And I did cut the oval just a little bit larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. Now I'll start working on a little gnome girl. I've already started assembling her. She has a gray and white polka dot dress. I've attached her feet and also her face. She'll be wearing the new candy corn hat. Instead of using the traditional candy corn colors, I selected 3 different shades of purple cardstock. The candy corn hat shape is different than the traditional gnome hat, so I will need to trim down part of the background piece so it's not showing. Then I'll adhere the hat. Now I'll add her nose, and I did pop it up using some foam dimension. Next I'll add her blonde hair. She'll be holding the new Boo glasses. I cut out the handle and background piece from some black cardstock, and for the word Boo, I cut it out of purple iridescent cardstock, so it'll have this beautiful sparkly shine. I'll adhere the 2 pieces together. Then I'll add some small foam pieces on the back side of the glasses, just in the areas where it doesn't sit on her nose. And I will need to cut down my foam squares into some teeny tiny pieces. Then I'll add her hand holding the handle of the glasses. Put another foam dimension piece behind her hand and a little bit of glue behind the area that does sit on her nose. Then I'll adhere the glasses in front of the gnome. I think it's fun to have the gnomes wear glasses since you can't actually see their eyes. This gnome will be holding a tiny purple pumpkin, and the pumpkin die is from the new Build-A-Booth Halloween add-on set. I'll adhere her hand on the right side of the pumpkin, put foam dimension on the back, and adhere it in front of the gnome. Now I'll flip over my gnome, put foam dimension on the back, remove the release paper, and add her on top of the white oval die cut. And I'll adhere her all the way at the bottom so you can't actually see the bottom edge of the oval. Since the glasses are the sentiment, I'm not adding any other sentiment to the card. I'll use a white gel pen, add highlights to the gnome and also the pumpkin. Using some black cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right hand corner. First cut a fishtail on the bottom, then I'll cut the right side in slightly at an angle, flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some doodlebug shaped sprinkles, purple stars. I'll put 3 of them in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, I selected this fun Halloween colored geometric pattern for the background. I'll be layering it on a purple scalloped rectangle die cut. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And you'll see just a peek of the white card base showing. I'll be adding a vellum die cut. I used Jaded Blossom's Stylized Rectangle dies. But first I'll assemble the large jack-o'-lantern. So this time I used orange cardstock, and I've already put most of it together. I used black cardstock for the face of the jack-o'-lantern, and I'll glue that in place. This card will also be featuring the adorable frog. There are 2 main pieces for the frog, the body and a separate piece for the head, so you could use a different colored cardstock. I decided to use the same shade of green cardstock for my frog. The die set does include the teeny tiny circles for the eyes of the frog. I use white cardstock for the main eye and black cardstock for the tiny pupil. I did use an embellishment wand to pick those up since they are so small. Off camera, I assembled 2 more frogs. I have 1 frog looking up and the other 2 frogs looking straight ahead. 2 of the frogs will be sitting inside the jack-o'-lantern. I put a piece of double-sided adhesive tape on the back side so I could adhere those 2 frogs in place. Then I'll flip it over, put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper, add my jack-o'-lantern with the 2 frogs on the vellum die cut. I'll lay the vellum die cut piece on the card so I can get the placement correct. For the top of the pumpkin, I'll be gluing it directly down, and I'm putting it at an angle so it sort of looks hinged. I almost forgot I wanted to add a couple of Love from Lizzie peel-offs to the background. This is the lilac mirror color in the pinstripe style. I'm adding the widest and also the medium width. I meant to do this before layering that background piece on the scallop die cut, but I forgot. So instead of wrapping the ends around the back like I usually do, I'll use a craft knife to cut off the right side of the peel-off. Next, I'll put foam dimension on the last frog. This is the one looking up. Then I'll adhere it on the right side of the jack-o'-lantern. Once I have all of the die cut pieces adhered, I'll flip over the vellum piece, put glue on the back side just behind the die cut areas. That way the glue won't show through on the vellum. Then I'll adhere it onto the card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out Trick or Treat. I have foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. Before placing it down, I did lift up the vellum to add just that little bit of glue underneath the area where the sentiment will go. Now I'll use a white gel pen and add just a few highlights to the jack-o'-lantern. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some green glitter enamel dots. These are from Pink and Main. It was included in a previous monthly kit. I'll put 3 in the lower left-hand corner and 2 above the sentiment in the upper right-hand corner. For card design number 4, I'm using pattern paper from Lawn Fawn's brand new Spiffier Speckles paper collection. This is a really fun collection. Half of it has gold foil speckles and the other half has tone-on-tone speckles. I selected a light blue paper with the tone-on-tone speckles. I cut down the pattern paper to A2 size and I've already adhered it onto a card base. This card will be featuring Jaded Blossom's Build-A-Booth die cut. I've already assembled it. Thought it would be fun to do a green colored booth for Halloween. I'll have one of the gnomes standing behind the booth, but his hat will go in front of the top board of the booth. He's wearing the candy corn hat. Since you won't see his feet, I didn't need to worry about adding any of the feet die cut pieces. I'll put glue on the back of the booth and the gnome and adhere it to the front of my card. I did place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Now I'll assemble the candy corn bunting. I cut out the string from some white shimmer cardstock. I've already assembled 4 of the candy corns. I use white cardstock for the background piece. Then I have white, yellow, and orange cardstock for the layers of the candy corn. I'll put glue on the back and adhere them all in place. I love how the candy corns are all facing different directions. Once I have those all adhered, I'll put glue on the back and add the bunting on the lower portion of the booth. I'll place the large acrylic block on top again, focusing just on the candy corn bunting piece. And I did let that sit for several minutes. I paused the video. I know it looks like it was only a few seconds. Now I'll add both of the gnome's hands on the edge of the booth. There are a couple of skin tone cardstock packs I like to use for the gnomes. One is P13 Skin Tones, and Jaded Blossom does carry it. I believe it's currently out of stock, but they are getting more. There's also a collection from Hero Arts that has a nice variety of skin tones, and I will add a link for both of them in the description box below. Another option, if you're not able to get either of the skin tone paper packs, is to cut out all of the pieces from white cardstock and use skin tone colored markers. Copic has a nice variety of different skin tone colors. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Trick or Treat. I stamped it on Jaded Blossom's sign add-on set. And when I adhered it in the upper left corner of the booth, I placed the string of the sign so it looks like it's hanging off that nail in the upper left-hand corner. In the upper right-hand corner of the booth, I added a stitch circle die cut. Inside this circle, I put 2 adorable candy corn shaped sprinkles from Doodlebug, and I also put one on the right side of the gnome's hat. Currently, I'm assembling a black cat, and this is from Jaded Blossom's Halloween add-on gnome die set. Instead of inlaying the back part of the eyes, I put a piece of white cardstock on the back of the cat. For the teeny tiny nose of the cat, I cut it out of light pink cardstock, and I did inlay that itty bitty piece. The cat's eyes are yellow, and I used the same cardstock color as the middle portion of the candy corn. And for the pupil of the eye, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. I'll put foam dimension on the back of the body and legs of the cat and adhere him in the lower right-hand corner. The cat's head will be in front of a couple of the candy corns on the bunting. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a white gel pen, adding highlights to the gnome, the candy corn, and also the sentiment sign. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Most of my Halloween cards go to the residents at a nearby retirement home, so I try to keep them on the cute side versus spooky. My final card is about as creepy as I can make a Halloween card. I have a piece of light purple tone-on-tone grid pattern paper from Sunny Studio. I'm using just the bat layer stencil from the Enchanted Night Sky stencil set. The ink color is Queen for a Day by Catherine Pooler. I'm not stenciling the single bat in the lower right-hand corner, but I will stencil all of the other bats. Now I'll cut down this panel to an A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I will be adding a Scallop Rectangle frame. This is from Jaded Blossom's Rounded Rectangle Internal Scallops die set. I cut it out from some white shimmer cardstock, put double-sided adhesive tape on the back side. I'll remove the release paper, then I'll adhere it to a piece of vellum. Next, I'll add some thin foam strips around the edge of the frame. I'm using some foam dimension from scrapbook.com. I'll remove the release paper and add my rounded frame onto the card. So it's leaving about 1/4 of an inch of the pattern paper showing, but you can still see the bat design through the vellum. Before adhering the frame down, I did put 2 small strips of foam dimension on the right side since I'll be adding a gnome there. That way it adds just that little extra stability on the inside of the frame. This card will be featuring the small spider and also a frog. Instead of using the eye die cuts that are included on the die set, I'm giving both of them googly eyes. I think googly eyes are a great way to make something just a little less creepy. I have 2 different sizes of eyes. The smaller size does have adhesive on the back, but just to make sure everything stays in place, I'm also adding that small drop of glue. Before adhering the spider down, I'll first give it a web. I cut it out from some purple cardstock, and I'll adhere the web in the upper left-hand corner. I realized after I adhered it down, I think I put it the wrong direction. The card I photographed has better placement of the web. I have foam dimension on the back of the frog and also the spider. I'll remove the release paper, add the spider on the web and the frog in the lower left-hand corner. The gnome I'm adding will be dressed up as a witch. The witch costume is from the Halloween costume add-on set number 2. I used purple cardstock for her dress. Her skin is green. After adding the dress, then I'll adhere her face. Next, I'll add the witch's hat, and I will need to trim down that background piece of the traditional gnome hat in order to fit the witch's hat. The witch's nose has a little wart on the right side, which is hilarious. I do have foam dimension on the back. After adhering her gnome, I'll add the hair. I thought some purplish pink hair would be fun for the gnome. The witch's legs are from the same Halloween costume set number 2. I used some black and white striped pattern paper for her legs and black cardstock for her boots. With the leg design, you can have the witch sitting and doing the splits, or you can have her standing by cutting the legs in half. And that's what I decided to do. I used the lines on my craft mat to make sure to get the legs even. Then I'll flip over my gnome, put foam dimension on the back, remove the release paper, and add my witch on the right side of the card. You can see now it's covering up those little pieces of foam I had in the background. The witch will be holding the large eye that's included on the Graveyard add-on set. I thought it would be fun to have a pink iris and black pupil, and I use white shimmer cardstock for the main portion of the eye. After adhering those all together, I'll put her hand on the right and left side, so now she can hold the large eye. I'll first put foam dimension on the back before adhering it in front of the witch. Using a white gel pen, I'll add highlights to the witch and also the frog. I've already stamped out the sentiment Spooky Season. Instead of using the coordinating outline die, I separated the two words. I have foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and add my sentiment on the left side of the witch underneath the spider web, putting each word at a different angle. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the silver holographic color in the mini star style. I'll put 3 around the sentiment and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I have one more card to share with you, although I'm not showing the process. For the background of the card, I used the new candy corn stencil set. The images and also the sentiment are from the new Corny Halloween set. And both of the images were colored by my 13-year-old daughter. She didn't want to make a card, but she was happy to color the images for me. And I think she did an amazing job. Now here's another look at the 11 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's September 2023 Halloween release. There are so many fun new products in the release: stencils, stamps, and dies. And there's a little something whether you like to make cute or spooky Halloween cards. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Jaded Blossom never disappoints with their fun releases. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.